I still remember those mysterious whispers, those covert smiles he thought I was oblivious to. His sudden and secret so-called cabin trips with the boys were more frequent and enigmatic. For a long time, trust was a bridge we both built, and I never thought he would be the one to burn it. The day I decided to surprise him, the shock was mine to embrace, and the scene before me was anything but anticipated. In this narration, I share a transformative journey from being a deceived spouse to discovering strength and resilience I never knew resided within me. This story is not just a tale of betrayal and revenge, but it's about metamorphosis, redemption, learning to love oneself, and finding strength in the darkest of times. But remember, it's not just a tale of revenge, it's a story that transcends beyond the usual norms, breaking the stereotypes of vengeance and reaching a state of liberation, acceptance, and empowerment. My name is Camilla, and this is my story. So there I was, casually sipping my morning coffee, browsing through old photos of us, hubby and me, laughing, kissing, being the embodiment of a picture-perfect marriage. It had been 5 blissful years, but something was off lately. Every few weekends, my husband would gather his bags and vanish into the wilderness with his gang of friends, or the boys, as he affectionately called them, leaving me to wonder what mysterious adventures they were off to. His tales of these secretive escapades were riddled with inconsistencies. He'd say they were fishing, but there would be no pictures of fish. He'd say they were camping, but there'd be no photos of tents. Must be a guy thing, I would say to myself, pushing aside the nagging doubt and the nagging feeling that something was amiss. Curiosity is a potent brew, and eventually I caved. I decided to surprise him on one of his secret cabin trips. My heart raced with anticipation as I drove through winding roads surrounded by dense whispering trees to the secluded cabin where they supposedly hung out. I hope he's happy to see me, I muttered to myself, my hands clammy on the wheel. As I reached the sight before me made my heart sink into my stomach. There was my husband, but there were no boys. Instead, there she was, a woman, her laughter harmonizing with his in a symphony of betrayal. Rage bubbled inside me as I watched them, unseen. But rather than confront them, an idea hatched inside my head, a spectacular, dramatic, grandiose display of revenge seasoned with a sprinkling of public humiliation. I started my meticulous plan by gathering evidence. I clicked photographs, collected voice recordings, snippets of their stolen moments together. Each piece of evidence was a sharp sting, a reminder of the facade of my marriage. I kept telling myself, focus, this is for the grand revelation. This will be worth it. With all the evidence I needed, it was time to set the stage. I decided to throw a grand party, a soiree to celebrate love and commitment. My invitations were extended to all our friends, family, and acquaintances, and there was a peculiar emphasis on the boys to make sure they attend. My heart pounded as I prepared, knowing that the mask of perfection would soon be shattered. To my delight, the party was buzzing. The air was saturated with laughter and chatter, everyone blissfully ignorant of the drama that was about to unfold. My husband, basking in the love and attention showered upon him, was completely oblivious to the storm brewing around him. With every passing second, my heart raced, but I kept my composure. I smiled, I laughed, I played the gracious host, waiting for the perfect moment to drop my bombshell. And then it arrived, the moment when everyone was gathered, their attention fixated on us as we were about to make a toast. I raised my glass high, my voice steady, to love and to the beautiful secrets it holds. With a smirk, I started the projection. The room fell into stunned silence as images flashed across the screen, the laughter and whispers of stolen moments echoing around the room. The air was charged with shock, betrayal, and whispered accusations. I watched as the color drained from my husband's face, his eyes darting around, looking for an escape from the web of his own making. The room was a battlefield, and I was the lone warrior standing tall amidst the ruins of my marriage. Victorious yet broken, I had pulled off my grand revenge. The public humiliation etched on his face was the trophy I hadn't known I wanted. But there was no joy in this victory, only the cold, empty realization that the man I had loved was never truly mine. And while the whispers and the stares surrounded me, the only sound that echoed in my mind was the shattering of my own heart. Fallout from my dramatic revelation was like a slow burning fire consuming everything in its path. My husband, or should I say soon-to-be ex-husband, was now the subject of hushed whispers and furtive glances, his reputation in tatters. The next day, he tried to approach me, his eyes swollen, probably from remorse or perhaps just from being caught. "Please, can we talk about this?" he pleaded, his voice a fragile whisper. "I have nothing to say to you," I replied coldly, my heart stone against his pleas, but my mind was a whirlwind of emotions, torn between the remnants of love and the fresh wounds of betrayal. Every fiber of my being screamed to run away, to escape the ruins of my once happy life. But no, I wasn't done. The dramatic revelation was just the appetizer. The main course of revenge was still being served. In my pursuit of revenge, I found unlikely allies. Boys feeling betrayed themselves were more than willing to assist me in my mission. We colluded, planned, and executed meticulous schemes to expose his lies further, to tarnish his image and isolate him from everyone who once admired him. We worked in shadows, our moves calculated, our intentions clear. Our little revenge squad was a ticking time bomb, and it exploded, revealing more secrets, more betrayals. It seemed my husband had created a labyrinth of lies, a maze so complex that even he was lost in it. The more I discovered, the more my heart hardened. The slivers of love that remained were now turning into shards of hate. And then there was her, the other woman, the partner in his deceit. My anger towards her was a raging inferno, but I also saw her as a pawn in his twisted game, another victim of his lies. I approached her, my intentions unclear even to myself. Was it to confront her, to understand her, or to simply see the face of the woman who had stolen my husband's heart? Her eyes met mine, a flicker of guilt passing through them before being replaced by defiance. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice laced with a mixture of fear and defiance. "I want to know why," was all I could muster, my voice a mere whisper, the pain and anger battling within me. She too had been a puppet in his game, unaware of his marital status, fed lies coated in sweet words. It became clear that in his quest for thrill and adventure, he had played us both, leaving a trail of broken hearts in his wake. The revelation sparked a strange camaraderie between us, two broken souls united by betrayal. We exchanged stories, tears, and mutual regrets, the pain forging an unspoken bond between us. It was a connection neither of us had sought, but there we were, confiding, understanding, healing. As I listened to her, my rage simmered into a cold, calculated resolve. This was not just my battle anymore. It was our battle, a war against deceit and betrayal. We became partners in revenge, planning the final act of this drama, the grand finale where he would be stripped of his masks, his true face revealed to the world. As the day of reckoning approached, my newfound ally and I met in secret, refining our plan and sharing our vulnerabilities. Our bond was strange, but it was real, forged in the fires of betrayal. We were two wounded warriors fighting a common enemy, our pain our strongest weapon. Finally, the day arrived. The stage was set, and all the actors were in their places. The air was thick with tension, charged with anticipation. I felt a kaleidoscope of emotions as I prepared to face him, my stomach in knots, my heart racing. This is it, the moment of truth. I said to myself, steadying my breath, preparing for the storm ahead. We had planned a public confrontation, a spectacular showdown where all his lies would be laid bare, his charade exposed. We had invited friends, family, colleagues, anyone who had known him, respected him. It was to be a court of public opinion, a platform where his true self would be revealed. He walked in unsuspecting, his usual charm in place, his smile radiating confidence. He had no idea that his fortress of lies was about to crumble, his empire of deceit about to fall. My heart hammered in my chest as he approached, his eyes searching mine, a flicker of curiosity in them. "What is all this?" he asked, the innocence in his voice almost convincing. And then the storm broke, a torrent of accusations, revelations, and confessions pouring down on him. His face changed, the mask slipping, revealing the man behind it, the real him. The room was a battlefield, his defenders fighting a losing battle, the truth slicing through their defenses, exposing the rot within. His eyes darted around, looking for an escape, a way out of this nightmare, but there was none. The walls were closing in, his past catching up to him. The air was electric, the tension palpable, the silence broken only by the whispers of shock and disbelief. It was a spectacle, a display of his true self, each layer peeled back, revealing the man he really was, his charm, his charisma, all stripped away, leaving behind a broken, defeated man. The room was a sea of faces, each one a mirror reflecting his betrayal, his deceit. I watched him, my heart a mix of satisfaction and sorrow, the final act playing out before my eyes. I had dreamed of this moment, longed for it, the sweet taste of revenge on my lips. But as I saw him there, broken, lost, a part of me mourned the man I had loved, the man I had thought he was. He tried to speak, to defend himself, to explain, but his words were empty, his voice a hollow echo. The truth was out, the mask shattered, and all that remained was the man, the real man, exposed and vulnerable. His eyes met mine, a plea in them, a silent request for forgiveness, understanding, but it was too late. The damage was done, and all that remained was the ruins of a life, a love destroyed by his own hands. The confrontation was a catharsis, a release of all the pain, the anger, the betrayal. It was a cleansing, a purification, the truth washing away the stains of his lies. And as the dust settled, as the echoes of the confrontation faded, I felt a sense of peace, a calmness I hadn't felt in a long time. As I walked away from the ruins of my past, a sense of freedom enveloped me, a lightness in my step. I had fought the battle, won the war, and now the future was mine to shape, to mold. The pain was still there, the scars still fresh, but I was healing, growing, evolving. I looked back one last time at the man I had loved, the man I had lost. He was a shadow, a ghost of his former self. His world crumbled, his life in shambles. It was a painful sight, a reminder of what could have been, what should have been, but it was also a symbol of my strength, my resilience, my ability to rise from the ashes, to rebuild, to renew. And with a final glance, a final goodbye, I turned away, leaving the past behind, stepping into the future, a future of possibilities, of hope, of new beginnings. The aftermath of the confrontation was a maelstrom of emotions, a tempest of pain and relief, regret and vindication. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, but the echo of betrayal still reverberated in the back of my mind. "You've done it. You've exposed him," I said to myself, trying to grasp the enormity of what had just transpired. He was now the talk of the town, whispers of his deceitful exploits permeating through every social circle. His name was synonymous with betrayal, his image tarnished beyond repair. It was the bitter fruit of his deception, a consequence of his actions, and it tasted oh so sweet to my revenge-fueled heart. Our shared acquaintances were divided, some siding with him, ensnared in his web of charming lies, while others extended their sympathy to me, their eyes newly opened to his true colors. He was a war of opinions, a battlefield of conflicting loyalties, and I was at its center, a symbol of his deceit and downfall. The other woman, once my opponent, now my ally, also began her journey of healing. Our bond, though born of pain and betrayal, had become a beacon of support and understanding, a shared experience that only we could truly comprehend. We were the wounded survivors of his emotional onslaught, and together we started to rebuild our broken selves. During this turbulent time, my newfound strength became my guiding light, my compass through the storm. I immersed myself in activities that brought me joy, surrounded myself with people who loved and supported me. This is your time, your moment to rediscover yourself. I constantly reminded myself. Every day was a battle, a struggle to move past the pain, to let go of the bitterness. There were moments of weakness, moments where the shadows of the past threatened to engulf me, but I fought back, clung to the light, to the hope of a better tomorrow. The path was rocky, the journey long, but I persevered, my resolve unbroken. I indulged in self-care, explored new hobbies, met new people, opened my heart to new experiences. I learned to love myself, to value my worth, to see beyond the scars, beyond the pain. It was a journey of self-discovery, of growth, of transformation. I was a phoenix rising from the ashes, reborn in the fire of my trials. However, the shadow of him lingered, a ghost haunting my steps, his memory a constant reminder of the pain, the betrayal. But with each passing day, the shadow grew fainter, the pain less sharp, the memories less vivid. I was healing, slowly, gradually, the wounds closing, the scars fading. In my journey of rebirth, I also learned the power of forgiveness, the strength in letting go. I realized that harboring the bitterness, the anger, was only poisoning my soul, chaining me to the past, to him. To truly be free, to truly move on, you must forgive, a wise friend advised me. It was not easy to release the anger, to let go of the resentment. It was a battle, a struggle within myself, but I fought it. I conquered it. I learned to forgive, not for him, but for me, to free myself from the chains of the past, to cleanse my soul from the toxins of bitterness. It was a release, a liberation, a breath of fresh air. Forgiving him was my final act of revenge, my ultimate victory. It was my way of taking back my power, my control, my life. It was my declaration of independence, my proclamation of freedom. I was no longer his victim, no longer his prisoner. I was free, free to live, to love, to be me. In this newfound freedom, in this rebirth, I found my true self, my authentic self. I learned to embrace my flaws, to celebrate my uniqueness, to love myself unconditionally. I discovered my worth, my value, my essence. I was me, unapologetically, proudly, freely. And as I walked this path of self-discovery, of healing, of growth, I realized that this journey, this experience had shaped me, molded me into the person I was meant to be. It was a painful lesson, a harsh reality. It was my truth, my story, and I owned it, embraced it, learned from it. In this climactic juncture of my life, where forgiveness had paved the road to my emancipation from pain and I was evolving every day, I also had a revelation. What if my true revenge is not just unearthing his deceitful endeavors, but also blooming in the ruins he left me in? I thought, a newfound purpose illuminating my path. I decided to convert my sufferings, my experiences, into stepping stones to help others going through the same agony. It was time to turn the tables, time to metamorphose my pain into power, my sufferings into solace for others. My journey found a voice in the form of a support group where broken hearts met to share, to heal, and to find strength and unity. It was a sanctuary of broken souls, a haven where wounded hearts found solace, understanding, and hope. Every story shared was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that we were not alone in our pain. Here, amidst tears and laughter, pain and hope, I saw the transformative power of shared experiences, of mutual support, of unconditional love. It was a magical experience, a healing journey, a rediscovery of self-worth, and I was humbled to be a part of it. Every session was a step closer to healing, a move towards self-discovery, a journey towards self-love. It was an emotional roller coaster, a symphony of pain and hope, sorrow and joy, and it was beautiful. I was witnessing the metamorphosis of broken spirits, the rebirth of lost souls, the rediscovery of buried self-love. However, my journey was not without its challenges, its setbacks. There were moments of weakness, of doubt, of despair. There were times when the shadows of the past threatened to engulf me, to pull me back into the abyss of pain. But I fought, I persevered, I overcame. Every challenge faced was a victory won, every setback overcome was a step forward. I am not defined by my past, by his betrayal. I am defined by my strength, by my resilience, by my ability to rise above the pain. I reminded myself during those trying times, it was my mantra, my shield against the shadows, my beacon in the darkness. In this journey of self-discovery, of healing, of transformation, I also found love, not in another, but in myself. I learned to appreciate my worth, to celebrate my uniqueness, to embrace my flaws. I discovered the beauty in self-love, the power in self-acceptance, the freedom in self-expression. I was not searching for someone to complete me, to fix me, to save me. I was complete, whole, beautiful in my imperfection. I was my savior, my hero, my love. I was enough. In the end, my revenge was not just exposing his deceit, not just surviving his betrayal, but thriving despite it. It was about transforming my pain into power, my suffering into strength, my tears into pearls of wisdom. It was about rising from the ashes, soaring above the pain, embracing my true self. And there he was, shackled by the chains of his deceit, imprisoned in the web of his lies, a prisoner of his own making. He had lost everything, his reputation, his friends, his love, while I had gained everything, my self-worth, my strength, my freedom. My true revenge was my transformation, my evolution, my liberation. It was the realization of my worth, the acceptance of my flaws, the celebration of my uniqueness. It was my journey from victim to survivor, from survivor to warrior, from warrior to victor. In conclusion, revenge is not about causing pain. It's about reclaiming your power. It's not about dwelling in the past. It's about building your future. It's not about him. It's about you.
Numbers don't lie. That's what I kept telling myself as I stared at my laptop screen, watching our joint account balance mock me with its glaring discrepancy. $50,000. Gone. Just like that, without a trace or explanation. I'm Layla, and until this moment, I thought I knew everything about my husband, Ethan. 12 years of marriage had taught me his habits, his tells, the way his left eye twitches when he's nervous. But nothing had prepared me for this. Hey, everything okay? Marcus poked his head into my office, his familiar concerned expression making me quickly minimize the banking window. You missed the morning briefing. Did I? My voice cracked. I cleared my throat, trying to maintain composure. Sorry, I got caught up in some calculations. Marcus stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Layla, you've been staring at your screen for the past hour. I can see your reflection in the window. I forced a smile, but my hands were shaking as I reached for my coffee mug. It's nothing, just some personal stuff. Personal stuff doesn't usually make you miss presenting the quarterly projections to the board. He leaned against my desk, his presence both comforting and intrusive. Want to talk about it? The mug trembled in my grip. Ethan's been different lately, distant, and now I'm looking at our accounts and I stopped myself, shame burning my cheeks. I shouldn't be discussing this at work. Different how? Late nights, mysterious phone calls. Last week he claimed he was visiting his sister in Phoenix, but when I called her, I set the mug down before I could spill it. She hadn't seen him in months. Marcus's expression darkened. Have you confronted him? He's got an explanation for everything. Always does. I pulled up the banking window again, pointing to the transaction history. But numbers don't lie, right? $50,000, transferred to an account I've never seen before. Jesus, Marcus whispered, leaning closer to examine the screen. When did this happen? 3 days ago, while I was at that conference in Boston. My phone buzzed on the desk, Ethan's face lighting up the screen. I let it ring. You should answer it, Marcus suggested, but I could hear the hesitation in his voice. I shook my head. Not until I figure out what I'm dealing with. I need to be smart about this. The phone stopped buzzing, only to start again immediately. This time, a text message appeared. Need to talk. Important. Please call me back. E. Whatever you decide to do, Marcus straightened up, heading for the door. Just remember you've got people in your corner. After he left, I sat there staring at Ethan's message, my mind racing through possibilities, each worse than the last. The pharmaceutical company where I worked had strict policies about personal matters affecting professional performance. I couldn't let this situation spiral out of control. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Ethan. Found us an amazing investment opportunity. We'll explain everything tonight. Love you. Investment opportunity. The words hit me like a slap. I remembered the last time he'd used that phrase. 3 years ago when he convinced his parents to refinance their house for a sure thing that ended up costing them their retirement savings. He'd sworn it wasn't his fault, that he'd been misled too. I'd believed him then. I opened my drawer and pulled out the business card Dr. Simmons had given me last month during Ethan's physical. Call me if you need to talk, she'd said, with an odd emphasis I hadn't understood at the time. Maybe she'd seen something I'd missed. The office suddenly felt too small, too confining. I gathered my things, told my assistant I was taking a personal day, and headed for the elevator. As the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of Marcus watching me from his office, his expression unreadable. I had no idea then that this was just the beginning, that the missing money would be the least of my concerns. But something inside me had shifted, like a switch being flipped. The trust I'd built my marriage on was crumbling, and in its place, something darker was taking root. The drive to Dr. Simmons's office felt like navigating through quicksand. Every red light stretched into eternity, every turn bringing me closer to answers I wasn't sure I wanted. The business card sat heavy in my pocket, its edges worn from my constant fidgeting. Dr. Simmons's receptionist recognized me immediately. Mrs. Harrison, doctors between patients, she said to send you right in when you arrived. The examination room smelled of antiseptic and secrets. Dr. Simmons stood by her desk, already waiting. I wondered when you'd call, she said, gesturing to a chair. How much do you know? About what? My voice sounded hollow, even to me. She pulled out a file, hesitating before opening it. During Ethan's last visit, I noticed some inconsistencies in his medical history, previous conditions that didn't match his records. What kind of inconsistencies? The kind that make me wonder if the Ethan Harrison in my office was the same Ethan Harrison from his previous medical records. She paused, studying my face. Have you ever verified his background? My phone buzzed. Another text from Ethan. Where are you? We need to talk about the investment. Time sensitive. Dr. Simmons noticed my hands shaking. Layla, there's something else. The prescription he requested last month. The office door opened. A nurse poked her head in. Doctor, your next patient is here. Give me 5 minutes, Dr. Simmons replied, then turned back to me. Listen carefully. Don't confront him yet. Get copies of all your financial documents first. And Layla, check the name Richard Thorne. Back at work, I couldn't focus. Marcus stopped by twice, but I barely registered his concerned looks. My computer screen blurred as I typed Richard Thorne into various search engines. Nothing significant appeared until I added fraud to the search. A newspaper article from 6 years ago showed a grainy photo of a man being led away by police. The image quality was poor, but something about the slope of his shoulders, the way he held his head. My office phone rang, startling me. Layla speaking. Hey, it's Sophie. Your sister's been trying to reach you. Something about Ethan showing up at her place. My blood ran cold. What? Lily said he was asking weird questions about your family's assets, claiming he needed the information for some kind of surprise for you. She felt uncomfortable. When was this? Yesterday afternoon. She tried calling you, but... I hung up, already dialing Lily's number. It went straight to voicemail. A knock at my door made me jump. Marcus entered, closing the door behind him. Board meeting in 10 minutes, but first, you need to see this. He placed a document on my desk, a copy of an email chain. This came through the company's compliance department. Someone's been accessing our confidential research data using your login credentials. That's impossible. The access points trace back to your home IP address. Late night hours when you're usually asleep. The pieces started falling into place. Ethan's late nights at home, his sudden interest in my work computer, the missing money. My stomach churned. I've delayed reporting this, Marcus continued, his voice low. But if there's something going on, I need to get home. I stood up, gathering my things. Tell them I'm sick. Layla, wait. Marcus caught my arm. Let me help. Whatever's happening. You can't. I pulled away, but his grip tightened slightly. At least let me drive you. You're shaking. In the parking lot, my car wouldn't start. The engine made a sickening grinding noise before falling silent. Marcus insisted on checking under the hood and found several cables deliberately disconnected. My phone buzzed again. Ethan, coming home early. Big news about our future. Everything's falling into place. I showed Marcus the message. His jaw tightened. You're not going back there alone. I have to. If he suspects I know anything. I trailed off, remembering Dr. Simmons's warning. Then we need a plan. Marcus pulled out his phone. I know someone in corporate security. Give me an hour. As we sat in his car, plotting my next move, I caught my reflection in the side mirror. The woman staring back at me looked different somehow. Harder, more determined. The trust I'd lost wasn't just about money anymore. It was about survival. The garage door was open when Marcus dropped me off. My car, the one that wouldn't start earlier, sat in the driveway, pristine and seemingly untouched. Ethan leaned against it, phone in hand, wearing that disarming smile that used to make my heart skip. There you are, he called out. You wouldn't believe the day I've had. The investment's locked in. We're looking at triple returns within 6 months. I felt Marcus's car idling behind me, his presence a silent guardian. The car's working now. Had Tom take a look at it. Simple fix. Ethan gestured toward our neighbor's house. You worry too much, honey. Tom appeared in his driveway, giving me an awkward wave. Something in his expression made me uneasy. Weird coincidence, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. Those cables must have come loose on their own. Marcus's car finally pulled away. The sound felt like abandonment. Inside, Ethan moved with unusual energy, pulling papers from his briefcase. Look at these projections. The returns are guaranteed. We just need to move quickly. Maybe liquidate some of your pharmaceutical stocks. My phone buzzed. A text from Lily. Call me now. Emergency. I need to use the bathroom, I said, already moving toward the stairs. Ethan's hand caught my wrist. This can't wait, Layla. The opportunity expires tonight. I pulled away, forcing a smile. 5 minutes. In the bathroom, I called Lily. She answered on the first ring. He knows. she whispered. About Dr. Simmons, about everything. He was here again, asking about your trust fund. When I wouldn't tell him, Her voice cracked. The things he said about you, about our family. Are you safe? Sophie's picking me up, but Layla, there's more. I found something when he was here, a phone. Not his regular one. There were messages about... The line went dead. My hand shook as I tried calling back. Nothing. Downstairs, Ethan's voice carried up the stairs. He was on the phone. Yes, everything's proceeding as planned. She suspects nothing. No, that won't be a problem much longer. I crept closer to the stairs, straining to hear. The sister's becoming an issue. Yes, I understand. It'll be handled. No, Richard Thorne doesn't exist anymore. I made sure of that. My foot hit a creaky floorboard. The conversation stopped abruptly. Layla? Ethan called out. You've been up there a while. Everything okay? I flushed the toilet, buying time. When I came downstairs, he had a glass of wine waiting. Your favorite, he said, holding it out. I remembered Dr. Simmons's words about his prescription requests. Actually, I'm not feeling well. Maybe we should discuss this tomorrow. His smile tightened. The opportunity expires tonight, remember. Just take a sip, relax, and let me handle everything. The doorbell rang. Through the glass panels, I saw Marcus. What's he doing here? Ethan's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Probably about the board meeting I missed. I moved toward the door, but Ethan blocked my path. You've been spending a lot of time with your manager lately. It's work-related, like those late-night emails from the company server. His mask slipped for a moment, revealing something cold beneath. You should be more careful with your passwords, honey. The doorbell rang again. 3 sharp, urgent rings. Don't answer it. Ethan's command was soft but absolute. My phone buzzed again, a text from Sophie. Lily's safe. Police involved. Get out now. Move, I said, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. Or what? He stepped closer, his familiar cologne now suffocating. You'll tell them about Richard Thorne? About the missing money? Who do you think they'll believe? The loving husband worried about his unstable wife, or the woman making wild accusations? The wine glass in his hand trembled slightly. For the first time, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. He wasn't sure how much I knew. The front door crashed open. Marcus stood there with 2 police officers, Tom right behind them, clutching what looked like security camera footage. I'm sorry, Tom said, looking at Ethan. I couldn't do it anymore, not after what you asked me to do to her car. The wine glass shattered on the floor, dark red spreading like blood across our pristine white tiles. In that moment, watching Ethan's carefully constructed world begin to crumble, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about justice. The police interview room felt smaller with each passing hour. Detective Chen pushed another cup of coffee across the table while I replayed the security footage Tom had provided. On the screen, Ethan methodically disconnected my car's cables, his movements precise, practiced, not the clumsy work of an amateur. Mrs. Harrison, Detective Chen said, we found something interesting in your neighbor's garage. Want to tell me about these? She slid photographs across the table. Surveillance equipment, far more sophisticated than anything Tom could afford. Next to them, printouts of my daily schedule, annotated in Ethan's familiar handwriting. I've never seen these. Your neighbor claims Ethan paid him to install them 3 months ago, right around the time your company started clinical trials on the new cancer drug. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. The timing wasn't a coincidence. There's more. She produced a laptop. Your sister's phone was recovered. The contents are concerning. The video played. Ethan in Lily's living room, his charm turned predatory. Your sister's always been the smart one, hasn't she? Figuring things out too quickly. But accidents happen, Lily, especially to people who ask too many questions. My hands clenched until my nails cut into my palms. I want to press charges. That's the thing. Detective Chen closed the laptop. We can't find him. His fingerprints match 3 different identities in our database. Richard Thorne is just one of them. A knock interrupted us. Marcus stood in the doorway, looking exhausted. They found something at the office. In the elevator up to our floor, Marcus kept glancing at me. "You should prepare yourself," he said finally. My office door hung open. Inside, forensics teams photographed my decimated workspace. My computer was gutted, hard drive missing, but worse were the walls, covered in photographs. Me sleeping, shopping, meeting Dr. Simmons, having lunch with Marcus. "He's been watching me for months," I whispered. "Not just you." Marcus pointed to a stack of papers on my desk. These were hidden in his cloud storage. He's been selling company research to competitors, using your login credentials. The room spun. The clinical trials. Compromised. The board's meeting now to discuss damage control. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. The text contained only an image. Lily's house. Current timestamp. Lights on inside. "He's there," I said, showing Marcus. "He's at my sister's house right now." "Police are on their way," Detective Chen called from the doorway. "Don't." But I was already running, Marcus close behind. In the parking garage, he grabbed my arm. "You can't go alone. He's my husband. My responsibility." "Was your husband," Marcus corrected. "And he's not working alone. Think about the resources needed for this level of surveillance. Someone's backing him." Another text arrived, a video of Lily entering her house, unaware she was being filmed. Below it, words that made my blood freeze. "Should have taken the wine, honey." Marcus's keys jangled between us. "I'm driving." The 15-minute drive to Lily's house felt endless. Marcus broke every speed limit while I tried calling her. No answer. "There's something you should know," Marcus said, turning onto her street. "The board meeting today, it wasn't just about the trials. Someone's been accessing restricted files about our pharmaceutical patents. Files only accessible from your home network." Understanding hit like a physical blow. The investment opportunity he kept pushing was never about money. It was about access. We turned the corner to Lily's house. Every light blazed, but her car was missing. In the driveway stood Sophie, frantically waving us down. "She's not here," Sophie called out as we approached, "but he left this." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a single photograph, Ethan and me on our wedding day. On the back, in his handwriting, "You really should learn to trust your husband, Layla. Now everyone pays the price." My phone buzzed one final time. A video. Lily tied to a chair, terror in her eyes. Behind her, Ethan's voice. "Ready to discuss those patents now, honey?" The screen went black, leaving only my reflection, a woman I barely recognized anymore. The time for playing victim was over. Ethan wanted to see how far I'd go to protect what's mine. He was about to find out. "Call Detective Chen," I told Marcus, already heading back to the car. "Tell her to meet us at the office. I know where he's taking her." The abandoned research facility loomed before us, its darkened windows reflecting the last rays of sunset. Marcus killed the engine, but I was already moving, Dr. Simmons's voicemail replaying in my head. "Layla, I found his original medical records. The man you married, he's done this before. 3 times. The wives all disappeared. Security cameras tracked our approach. Good, let him see me coming." "You realize this is exactly what he wants," Marcus said, matching my stride. "He's counting on you being emotional, making mistakes. He has my sister, and a team of corporate spies backing him. The police are 15 minutes out. We should wait." "You don't have to come." His hand caught my arm. "That's not what I meant. The key card I'd stolen from Ethan's desk months ago still worked." The door clicked open, releasing stale air and memories. This was where we'd first met, where he'd charmed his way into my life with that perfect smile and carefully crafted backstory. Inside, emergency lights cast sickly shadows. Our footsteps echoed through empty corridors until a familiar voice cut through the darkness. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize my own wife's perfume? Ethan's voice came through the PA system, distorted but unmistakable. Third floor, honey. Just like our first date, remember? Marcus reached for his phone. I stopped him. No signal, he's jamming it. Layla. The concern in his voice made me pause. What aren't you telling me? Before I could answer, a scream pierced the silence. Lily. We ran toward the stairs, but the sound of a door slamming stopped us. Through the window, I caught glimpse of movement in the parking lot. He's playing us, Marcus realized. Splitting us up. Another scream, closer this time. Marcus hesitated, torn between following me and checking the parking lot. Go, I said. I know where he's keeping her. The third-floor laboratory still smelled of chemicals and broken dreams. This was where our company's failed cancer drug had been developed, where millions had been lost, where Ethan had first accessed our research. Lily sat tied to a chair in the center of the room, duct tape across her mouth. Behind her, screens displayed security footage of the building, including Marcus heading toward the parking lot. The famous big sister coming to the rescue. Ethan emerged from the shadows, holding something that made my blood freeze. My old research notebook. You know what I found interesting about your early trials? The unreported side effects, the deaths you covered up. Let her go. This is between us. Is it? He flipped through the notebook. Your sister was so helpful, telling me where you kept your backup data. All those years of falsified research hidden away in a safety deposit box. Imagine the board's reaction when this leaks. Lily's muffled protest drew my attention. Her eyes weren't showing fear anymore. They were trying to tell me something. You're not the only one who can play detective, honey. Ethan's smile turned cruel. Did you really think Marcus was helping you out of the goodness of his heart? Ask him about Project Eclipse. Ask him who really authorized those failed trials. Movement behind Ethan caught my eye. A reflection in the darkened windows. Marcus, gun raised. You destroyed everything I built, I said, keeping Ethan's attention. My marriage, my career, my family. No, sweetheart, you did that yourself. I just exposed the truth about who you really are. He moved closer, notebook extended like a peace offering. But we can still fix this. Together. Just like before. The gunshot shattered the silence. But Ethan didn't fall. Instead, Marcus crashed through the door, blood spreading across his shirt. Sorry, honey. Ethan's smile never wavered. Didn't I mention? Your friend Tom's been very cooperative since we found those tax fraud records. Lily's chair toppled as she fought against her restraints. Marcus lay motionless. And something inside me, something I'd kept caged since discovering that first missing payment, finally broke free. I lunged for the notebook, but Ethan was faster. As we grappled, his phone clattered to the floor, revealing an open email. Project Eclipse termination authorized. Eliminate all witnesses. The implications hit harder than any physical blow. This wasn't just about stealing research or ruining my life. This was about silencing everyone who knew the truth. And I had just led Marcus right to him. Marcus's blood stained my hands as I pressed against his wound. Behind me, Lily had worked one hand free, but Ethan's attention was fixed on his phone, reading something that made him laugh. You know what's funny? He held up the screen. Your sister just got copied on every illegal trial document you ever signed. The board, the FDA, even those grieving families. They'll all know exactly who covered up those deaths. He's lying, Marcus gasped, his voice barely audible. Layla, the trials weren't your fault. Ethan's smile widened. Tell her, Marcus. Tell her who really ordered those experimental treatments, who falsified the consent forms. The laboratory lights flickered, casting strange shadows across Marcus's paling face. I had to protect the company, he whispered, but I never meant for anyone to die. The truth hit like physical pain. All those patients, all those families seeking answers. And I'd helped hide it. My signature on every document, trusting Marcus, trusting the system. There it is. Ethan circled us slowly. That moment when you realize everyone's been lying to you, even your white knight here. Lily's chair creaked as she worked at her restraints. Through the windows, distant sirens wailed. Too far away, too late. But I'll make you a deal. Ethan set my research notebook on a nearby bench. Give me access to Project Eclipse's complete data, and this stays buried. Your sister keeps her career. Marcus might even survive, and those families never learn the truth. Don't, Marcus coughed, blood staining his lips. Project Eclipse. It's not what you think. Ethan's phone chimed. He glanced at it, his composure cracking slightly. Time's running out, honey. The board's emergency meeting starts in 20 minutes. Once those documents hit their inbox. A crash from the hallway made us all jump. Footsteps approached. Heavy, multiple sets. That'll be my associates, Ethan said. Less understanding than me, I'm afraid. Last chance. My hands were slick with Marcus's blood as I helped him sit up. The access codes, he whispered. Don't. Shut up. Ethan kicked him hard. You've manipulated her enough. The footsteps grew closer. Through the laboratory's glass walls, shadows moved in the corridor. I trusted you, I told Marcus, my voice breaking. All those patients. The real data, he gasped. Safety deposit box. Explains everything. Ethan checked his watch. 10 seconds, Layla. Choose. Lily had worked the duct tape loose enough to speak. He's bluffing, she said. The email he showed you. Check the timestamp. I lunged for Ethan's discarded phone, but he was faster. The screen shattered as he smashed it against the floor. Wrong choice. He nodded toward the door as 3 men in tactical gear entered. Take care of them. Make it look like a lab accident. Wait. I stepped forward, hands raised. The backup server. In the basement. I can give you everything. Ethan studied my face, searching for deception. You're lying. Check my keycard access logs. Why do you think I came here? The men looked to Ethan for instructions. In that moment of hesitation, Lily's chair finally toppled. She rolled free, kicking the notebook into a puddle of spilled chemicals. The laboratory erupted into chaos. As Ethan lunged for the notebook, I grabbed for his phone's remains. Marcus slumped against me, his breathing shallow. Kill them all, Ethan ordered, but his voice held a new edge. Desperation. The tactical team raised their weapons. Through the broken phone screen, I saw the email timestamp Lily had noticed. It was dated next week. He's using you, I told them. Project Eclipse isn't what he promised. Shoot them, Ethan screamed. But the men hesitated, looking at each other. In their moment of uncertainty, distant voices echoed through the building. Police, finally arriving. Ethan pulled out a gun. Fine, I'll do it myself. The shot echoed like thunder. Marcus slumped in my arms, no longer breathing. Lily screamed. And something inside me, the last trace of the woman who had once loved this monster, died with Marcus. I looked up at my husband, seeing him clearly for the first time. You want to know about Project Eclipse? Follow me. As I led them toward the basement, Ethan's gun pressed against my back. I realized there was no going back. Whatever happened next would destroy us all. And maybe that was exactly what we deserved. The basement's emergency lights cast everything in blood-red shadows. Ethan's gun pressed between my shoulder blades as we descended, his mercenaries flanking us. Above, police sirens grew louder, but we all knew they'd be too late. The server room's through here, I said, swiping my keycard. Nothing happened. I tried again. Stop stalling. Ethan's voice had lost its smooth charm, revealing something rawer beneath. You really think I didn't disable your access? Then shoot me. I turned to face him. Because that's the only way you're getting what you want. His laugh echoed off concrete walls. Always so dramatic. Like when you threatened to expose the trial deaths. But you didn't, did you? Because deep down, you're just like me. A door slammed somewhere above us. The mercenaries exchanged glances. Sir, one said, we need to move. Ethan pulled out his phone, showing me the screen. A video feed of the upstairs lab. Lily still there, now with a guard standing over her. Last chance, honey. The real Project Eclipse data, or your sister joins Marcus. I took a step closer, close enough to smell his cologne, the same scent I'd once found so intoxicating. You want to know the truth about Project Eclipse? His eyes narrowed. The backup server doesn't exist. I smiled, feeling something cold and final settle in my chest. But the safety deposit box does. The one Marcus mentioned. I visited it this morning. The first flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. Behind him, one of the mercenaries touched his earpiece, listening to something. You were so focused on the trial data, I continued. You never asked why Marcus kept protecting me. Why he really hired me all those years ago. Sir, the mercenary interrupted, we've got movement on multiple floors. Shut up! Ethan's composure cracked further. What are you talking about? Project Eclipse wasn't about the drug trials. It was about identifying corporate spies. Like the ones who killed Marcus's wife 5 years ago. The ones you're working for. Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed quickly by fear. You're lying. Check your phone again. That video feed of Lily. It's a loop from 20 minutes ago. He glanced down. In that moment, I moved. The gun went off, the shot deafening in the confined space. But I was already rolling, my hand finding the emergency alarm panel Marcus had shown me months ago. The sprinklers activated, but instead of water, chemical foam poured down. The mercenaries' equipment sparked and died. Clear. Sophie's voice echoed from the stairwell as she led a tactical team in. The real one, the one Marcus had arranged before everything went wrong. Ethan lunged for me, but slipped in the foam. His gun clattered away. You don't understand, he gasped. They'll kill me. Like you killed Marcus? Like you killed those other wives? He reached for something in his jacket. I didn't hesitate. The syringe I'd palmed from the upstairs lab found his neck, just like he'd planned for me. What? His eyes widened as recognition hit. The trial drug, a dose large enough to show every side effect you helped cover up. I watched him slump against the wall. Don't worry. You'll live, long enough to experience everything those patients did. The tactical team secured the mercenaries. Sophie appeared beside me, helping me up. Lily's safe. The real Project Eclipse data is already with the FBI. And the board meeting, streaming live. They've seen everything, including Ethan's real identity and his connection to the corporate espionage ring. I looked down at my husband, the man I'd loved, the monster I'd married. He stared back, his handsome features already showing the first signs of the drug's effects. You were right, I told him softly. I am just like you. The difference is, I chose justice over revenge. As they led him away, his screams echoing through the basement, I felt no satisfaction. Only a hollow emptiness where love had once lived. Sophie touched my arm. Marcus left something for you, in case things went wrong. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a single note. Project Eclipse was never about the data. It was about finding someone strong enough to finish what my wife started. Thank you. The sirens grew closer as we climbed the stairs, leaving the basement and its secrets behind. But the echoes of what happened there would haunt us all forever. Some vengeance, I realized, comes not from what we do to others, but from what we force them to face in themselves. The hospital corridor stretched endlessly before me as I approached Ethan's room. Through the observation window, I watched him thrash against his restraints, his once handsome face contorted by the drug's effects, the same effects he'd helped hide from those trial patients. Dr. Simmons stood beside me, reviewing his charts. The symptoms will persist for months, every one of them documented now, impossible to deny. And the others? I asked. His previous wives? 2 have been found alive, in witness protection. She hesitated. The 3rd? I turned away from the window. I don't want to know. The click of heels announced Sophie's arrival. The board just finished reviewing Marcus's complete files. Everything about Project Eclipse, the corporate espionage ring, even records of his wife's murder. He'd documented it all. He knew, I said softly. From the moment Ethan started working there, and he chose you to finish it. Sophie handed me a USB drive. This was in his safety deposit box, along with a letter for you. Through the window, Ethan's eyes found mine. For a moment, I saw a flash of the man I'd loved, or thought I'd loved. Then his face twisted in another spasm of pain. The FBI wants your statement, Sophie continued, about the trial cover-ups. I'll give them everything. I pocketed the drive without looking at it. The patients' families deserve to know the truth. A commotion down the hall drew our attention. Lily appeared, accompanied by 2 federal agents. They found Tom, she said. He's agreed to testify about Ethan's network. I watched my sister, noting how she held herself differently now, stronger, more assured. We all carried scars from this, but maybe they'd made us harder to break. Mrs. Harrison, a nurse approached. He's asking for you. Inside the room, the restraints creaked as Ethan struggled to sit up. Come to enjoy the show? His voice was raspy, barely recognizable. No. I stayed by the door. I came to return something. I placed our wedding ring on his bedside table. He stared at it, then laughed. A horrible, broken sound. Still so righteous. But we both know the truth. You enjoyed it, didn't you? Watching me suffer? That makes you just like... No, I cut him off. It makes me nothing like you. Because I'm walking away. His laughter stopped. They'll never believe you about the trials. You signed off on them too. Maybe, but unlike you, I can live with the consequences of my choices. As I turned to leave, he called out, I did love you, you know, in my way. I paused at the door. That's the difference between justice and revenge, Ethan. Justice doesn't care if you loved me. Outside, Lily and Sophie waited. Behind them, through the hospital windows, the sun was setting over the city. Marcus's letter burned in my pocket, still unopened. What now? Lily asked. I watched a young couple pass by, their hands intertwined, faces bright with trust and possibility. Once, that had been me, but the woman I was then died in that basement, alongside the lies she'd built her life around. Now, I said, we tell the truth, all of it. My phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Simmons. Found something in Ethan's original medical records. We need to talk. I deleted it without reading further. Some truths could wait. Some secrets deserve to stay buried, at least for now. You're not going to look at the drive, are you? Sophie asked as we walked away. Marcus knew what he was doing, I replied. Whatever's on it, that's tomorrow's battle. The hospital doors slid open, releasing us into the evening air. Somewhere in the city, federal agents were unraveling Ethan's network. Families were finally learning the truth about their loved ones' deaths. And in a quiet cemetery, Marcus's wife's case was being reopened. Justice, I'd learned, wasn't a single act of revenge. It was a chain of consequences, each link forged by our choices, our secrets, our lies. And sometimes, the hardest part wasn't achieving it, but living with what it revealed about ourselves. I felt the weight of Marcus's letter, the mystery of the drive, the unread message from Dr. Simmons, tomorrow's battles, tomorrow's truths. For now, this was enough. Walking away, letting the echoes of vengeance fade into something quieter, something that felt almost like peace. Almost.
I couldn't stop the tears from streaming down my face as I hung up the phone. My husband, Trent, had just been on a call with his sister, and I overheard him express doubts about my pregnancy being real. The words stung like 1,000 needles piercing my heart. I confronted Trent as soon as he ended the call. How could you say that about me? About our baby? I demanded, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. Trent rolled his eyes, his expression dismissive. Oh, come on, Lila. You've been milking this pregnancy thing for all it's worth. Always complaining, always making excuses not to do anything around the house. I was stunned by his callous words. Are you serious? I've been struggling with severe morning sickness, and you think I'm just faking it? Maybe you're exaggerating a little, he shrugged. My colleague's wife had no problem keeping up with everything when she was pregnant. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The man I had married, the one who had promised to love and support me, was now accusing me of lying and comparing me to some idealized version of a pregnant woman. "Trent, this is our child we're talking about," I pleaded, hoping to reach the compassionate side of him that seemed to have vanished. "I need you to be there for me, to understand what I'm going through." But he just scoffed. "Stop being so dramatic. It's not like you're the first woman to ever get pregnant. Just suck it up and stop using it as an excuse to be lazy." His words cut deep, and I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. I turned away, not wanting him to see how much he had hurt me. As I retreated to the bedroom, I couldn't help but wonder what had happened to the man I fell in love with. Where was the caring, supportive partner I had married? And how could I make him see that his behavior was tearing us apart? In the following weeks, my morning sickness only seemed to worsen. I could barely keep anything down, and the constant nausea left me feeling drained and exhausted. Even simple tasks like making the bed or doing the dishes felt like monumental challenges. Trent, however, showed no signs of understanding or empathy. Instead, his impatience grew with each passing day. "I can't believe you let the house get this messy," he sneered one morning as he surveyed the cluttered living room. "It's like you're not even trying anymore," I tried to explain, my voice weak and strained. "Trent, I'm really struggling with this pregnancy. The nausea is constant, and I can barely function." But he just scoffed, his eyes cold and dismissive. "Don't give me that excuse again." My colleague Dean's wife managed to keep everything together when she was pregnant. She never let her house look like this pigsty. The comparison stung, and I fought back tears. "I'm sorry, but I'm not Dean's wife. I'm dealing with this the best I can." Trent's jaw tightened, and I could see the anger simmering behind his eyes. "You know, Dean's right. You're just using this pregnancy as an excuse to be lazy and avoid your responsibilities." I recoiled, stunned by his harsh words. "What? I'm not using anything as an excuse. I'm genuinely struggling here." But Trent wasn't listening. He just shook his head in disgust. "You're pathetic. I can't believe I married someone so weak and useless." His words cut me to the core, and I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. I fled to the bedroom, sobs racking my body. As I buried my face in the pillow, trying to muffle the sound of my anguish, I couldn't help but wonder how things had gone so wrong. Who was this cruel, heartless man, and what had happened to the loving, supportive partner I had married? It was as if Trent had been slowly poisoned by the toxic influence of his colleague Dean, and the man I knew was slowly slipping away. I knew I couldn't go on like this, but I felt powerless to stop the downward spiral. With each passing day, Trent's disdain and cruelty only seemed to grow, and I was left wondering if there was any hope left for our relationship, or if I was doomed to endure this torment until the bitter end. My best friend Nora could see the toll this situation was taking on me. She had been witness to Trent's escalating verbal abuse, and it broke her heart to see me so defeated and broken. One afternoon she came over unannounced, her face etched with concern. "Lila, we need to talk," she said, her voice gentle but firm. I looked at her with tired, puffy eyes, the aftermath of another emotional outburst from Trent. "What is there left to say, Nora? He's made it clear he doesn't care about me or this baby." Nora shook her head adamantly. "No, that's not true. He's just lost his way somehow. But we can't let him treat you like this any longer." I sighed heavily, feeling utterly helpless. "But what can I do? He won't listen to reason, and he's convinced I'm just making everything up." Nora's expression hardened, a newfound determination in her eyes. "Then we'll make him listen. I've been recording some of his outbursts on my phone." My eyes widened in surprise. "You? What, Nora? It's what we need to do," she insisted. "We need proof of how he's been treating you. Then we can take it to a professional, get you the help and support you deserve." I hesitated, uncertain about the ethics of secretly recording my husband. But as I looked at Nora's unwavering resolve, I knew she was right. This situation had spiraled too far out of control, and I needed all the ammunition I could get. Reluctantly, I nodded. "Okay, let's do it." Over the next few days, Nora continued to document Trent's tirades, capturing his cruel words and dismissive attitude on her phone's audio recordings. And sure enough, Another explosive argument erupted, giving her the perfect opportunity to catch his behavior in action. "You're useless. Do you know that?" Trent spat, his face twisted with contempt. "I don't know why I even bother with you anymore." As his harsh words cut through me like knives, Nora's phone was silently capturing it all. When the outburst finally ended, she gently took my hand and led me to the bedroom, away from Trent's seething presence. "Lila, you can't go on like this," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "This is abuse, plain and simple. It's time to get professional help." I nodded numbly, feeling utterly drained and defeated. But deep down, I knew Nora was right. If I stayed on this path, it would only lead to further destruction, for me and for my unborn child. With a heavy heart, I agreed to seek counseling and legal advice. It was a difficult step, but one that I knew was necessary to escape the toxic spiral my life had become. And with Nora by my side, I found the strength to take that first, crucial step towards a better future. With Nora's encouragement, I decided to make one last effort to get through to Trent. I scheduled a counseling session, hoping that having a third party present might help him see reason and work on improving our relationship before it was too late. When I told Trent about the appointment, he immediately bristled. "Counseling? Are you kidding me? We don't need some shrink meddling in our personal lives." "Trent, please," I pleaded. "Our marriage is falling apart. We need help to work through this." He scoffed dismissively. "There's nothing to work through. You're the one with the problem, not me." I felt my frustration rising, but I tried to keep my composure. "That's not true, and you know it. Your behavior towards me has been inexcusable, and it's only getting worse." Trent's eyes narrowed, and I could see the anger simmering behind them. "So, what, you're going to gang up on me with some therapist now? Make me out to be the bad guy?" "No one's trying to gang up on you," I said, struggling to remain calm. "I just want us to talk this through, with someone impartial there to help us communicate." But Trent was having none of it. He shook his head vehemently. "Forget it. I'm not doing this." The day of the appointment arrived, and despite my pleas, Trent refused to come. I went alone, feeling defeated and hopeless. The therapist, Dr. Miller, was kind and understanding as I explained the situation. "Your husband's resistance is not uncommon in cases like this," she said gently. "But it's important that you don't give up." She suggested trying a different approach, one that might make Trent feel less cornered and defensive. "Invite him to a session under the guise of discussing your concerns about the pregnancy and his role as a father. That way, it doesn't seem like an attack on him personally." I agreed to try her suggestion, though I couldn't help but feel skeptical. Trent had become so entrenched in his behavior, so unwilling to see reason, that I doubted anything would get through to him at this point. Still, I persisted, extending the olive branch once more. "Trent, I know you're feeling overwhelmed about becoming a father," I said gently. "Why don't we go talk to someone about it? Get some advice on how to prepare and what to expect?" To my surprise, he agreed, though his demeanor remained guarded and tense. I should have known better than to get my hopes up. The session was a disaster from the start. Trent sat in sullen silence, arms crossed defiantly as Dr. Miller tried to engage us in conversation. When she probed about our relationship struggles, he exploded. "This is a waste of time," he shouted, his face twisted with rage. "You're just trying to turn me into the bad guy here, aren't you?" Dr. Miller tried to calm him, but it was no use. Trent stormed out, leaving me devastated and ashamed. As I drove home alone, tears streaming down my face, I knew that I couldn't go on like this any longer. Trent had made his choice, and it was clear that he had no intention of changing or seeking help. With a heavy heart, I realized that my only option left was to take drastic action, for my own well-being and for the safety of my unborn child. It was time to issue an ultimatum, and this time I had to be prepared to follow through, no matter how painful it might be. After the disastrous counseling session, I knew it was time to take a stand. With Nora's support, I gathered my courage and confronted Trent with an ultimatum. "Trent, this can't go on any longer," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Your behavior towards me has become abusive, and it's not okay." He scoffed, rolling his eyes. "Here we go again with the dramatics." "No, I'm serious," I pressed on. "If you don't make a genuine effort to change and start treating me with respect, I'm going to have to leave." That got his attention. His eyes narrowed as he glared at me. "You're threatening to leave me? Over what? Because I expect you to pull your weight around here?" "This has nothing to do with housework, Trent," I said, fighting back tears. "This is about the way you've been belittling me, dismissing my struggles, and making me feel worthless." He shook his head dismissively. "You're just overreacting as usual." I took a deep breath, steeling my resolve. "I'm not overreacting. This is about preserving my self-worth and protecting our child from growing up in a toxic environment." "So what's it going to be? Are you going to make an effort to change or not?" For a moment Trent seemed conflicted, but then his expression hardened. "Fine," he said curtly. "I'll play along for now, but don't think this means you've won." I knew better than to believe his words at face value, but I had no choice but to give him a chance to prove himself. Little did I know, Trent had no intention of changing his ways. Instead, he sought solace in the toxic influence of his colleague, Dean. "She's got some nerve, threatening to leave like that," Trent ranted to Dean over drinks one night. "Like I'm the one who's been acting unreasonable." Dean shook his head, his expression grim. "Women, man. They're all the same, manipulative and controlling. You can't let her walk all over you like that." Trent nodded, emboldened by Dean's words. "You're right. I need to take control of this situation before it gets out of hand." And so, with Dean's guidance, Trent devised a plan, a twisted game of manipulation and deceit. He would pretend to comply with my demands, all the while secretly undermining my efforts and plotting his next move. Over the following weeks, Trent put on a convincing act. He was more attentive, more considerate, and even attended a couple of counseling sessions without incident. But behind closed doors, he was seeking advice from Dean on how to regain control and put me in my place. Little did Trent know, Nora had become increasingly suspicious of his sudden change in behavior. She continued to document his interactions with Dean, capturing their disturbing conversations on her ever-present phone recordings. It was only a matter of time before the truth came to light, and when it did, the fallout would be catastrophic. But for now, I allowed myself to believe that Trent had finally seen the error of his ways, unaware of the sinister game he was playing. A game that would ultimately lead to his downfall. As the weeks passed, Trent's facade of compliance began to crumble. Nora had been secretly recording his conversations with Dean, capturing their disturbing plans to undermine me and reassert Trent's control. Armed with this evidence, I knew it was time to take drastic action. With Nora's help, I arranged a surprise gathering, inviting both our families under the guise of celebrating the impending arrival of our child. When everyone had arrived, I took a deep breath, steeling my nerves for the confrontation ahead. Trent shot me a confused look, but I simply nodded to Nora, who pressed play on her phone. The recordings filled the room, Dean's poisonous words echoing loud and clear. "You can't let her walk all over you like that. Women are all manipulative and controlling." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room as our families listened in horror. Trent's face drained of color, realizing he had been caught red-handed. "Is this true, Trent?" his sister asked, her voice trembling with disbelief. "Have you really been treating Lila this way?" Trent opened his mouth to protest, but I cut him off, playing another recording, this time his own words. "She's got some nerve, threatening to leave like that. I need to take control of this situation before it gets out of hand." The room fell silent, the weight of his cruelty and deceit hanging heavy in the air. Trent's family looked at him with a mix of disappointment and disgust, while my own family rallied around me, offering support and comfort. Finally, Trent's sister spoke up, her voice thick with emotion. "Lila, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Trent, how could you do this to her, to your own family?" But Trent remained defiant, his face twisted in a sneer. "She's been manipulating all of you. Can't you see she's just playing the victim here?" I shook my head, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. "No, Trent. The only one manipulating here is you. And now, everyone can see the truth." With that, I played the final recording, a damning conversation between Trent and Dean, discussing strategies to wear me down and assert his dominance. The room erupted in outrage, my family and Trent's alike, condemning his actions and rallying around me. In that moment, I knew I had won. not just the battle, but the war. Trent's mask had finally slipped, revealing the ugly truth of his character. And as he stood there, surrounded by the people who had once trusted and loved him, he had nowhere left to hide. His sister approached me, tears in her eyes. "Lila, I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve any of this. We're here for you, whatever you need." And just like that, the tides had turned. Trent's carefully constructed web of lies had unraveled, leaving him exposed and alone, while I found myself surrounded by a support system stronger than I could have ever imagined. As I looked around at the faces of my loved ones, united in their condemnation of Trent's actions, I knew that this was just the beginning. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but with their help, I would find the strength to break free from this toxic cycle once and for all, no matter what it took. In the aftermath of the confrontation, my family rallied around me, offering unwavering support. With their encouragement, I made the decision to leave Trent, for good. My sister opened her home to me, providing a safe haven as I began the process of filing for divorce. "You don't have to go through this alone," she assured me, wrapping her arms around me in a comforting embrace. As news of Trent's despicable behavior spread, he found himself increasingly ostracized. His colleagues at work, once impressed by his charismatic persona, now looked at him with thinly veiled contempt. Respecting women and valuing integrity were core values in his profession, and Trent had violated them in the most egregious way. Even Dean, his once trusted ally, distanced himself, realizing that his toxic influence had gone too far. Trent had become a pariah, his reputation in tatters. Meanwhile, I found strength in the solidarity of my loved ones. Nora, my steadfast friend, was by my side every step of the way, offering a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on when the emotions became overwhelming. As the divorce proceedings unfolded, the evidence of Trent's emotional and psychological abuse proved damning. The recordings Nora had collected, coupled with witness testimonies from our families, painted a clear picture of his abusive behavior. Faced with the irrefutable proof of his cruelty, Trent had little recourse. His attempts to gaslight and manipulate fell flat, as the truth had already been laid bare. In the end, the settlement was heavily in my favor. Not only did I receive a substantial portion of our shared assets, but Trent was also ordered to undergo mandatory counseling and anger management. A small victory, but a vindication nonetheless. As I signed the final divorce papers, a weight lifted from my shoulders. I was finally free from the toxicity that had consumed my life for far too long. Trent, on the other hand, found himself in a deep hole of his own making. His once promising career hung in the balance, as word of his actions spread like wildfire through professional circles. Integrity and respect were paramount in his line of work, and he had squandered both in the most public and humiliating way. As the months passed, I focused on healing and preparing for the arrival of my child. With the support of my family and friends, I found strength in the knowledge that Trent's actions had been his own undoing. And when the day finally came, and I held my precious newborn in my arms, I felt a profound sense of peace. This child would never know the pain and turmoil that had once plagued our lives. Instead, they would be surrounded by love, support, and the unwavering strength of those who had stood by me through the darkest of times. As I gazed into my baby's eyes, I silently vowed to be the parent Trent could never be, loving, nurturing, and fiercely protective. And in that moment, I knew that while the road ahead might be challenging, I would never again be defined by the actions of a man who had lost his way. My future, and that of my child, was mine to shape, a future filled with hope, resilience, and the knowledge that even in the darkest of times, light can always find a way to shine through. With the divorce finally finalized, I found myself embarking on a new chapter, one filled with both trepidation and hope. The settlement had been generous, thanks in large part to Trent's tarnished reputation and the overwhelming evidence of his misconduct. Not only had I been awarded a substantial portion of our shared assets, but the court had also ordered Trent to cover my legal fees and provide child support. It was a small vindication, an acknowledgement of the emotional and psychological turmoil he had put me through. As I packed up my belongings, preparing to start afresh in a new city, I couldn't help but reflect on the long and arduous journey that had brought me to this point. The bruises may have been invisible, but they had left their mark, nonetheless. Nora, ever my steadfast ally, helped me load the last of my boxes into the moving truck. "You know, I'm going to miss having you around," she said, her voice thick with emotion. I pulled her into a tight embrace, holding back tears of my own. "I'll miss you too, more than you know, but I need this fresh start, a chance to heal and to focus on being the best mother I can be." She nodded, offering a watery smile. "I know, and you're going to be amazing at it. That little one is so lucky to have you." As I said my goodbyes and hit the road, a sense of liberation washed over me. I was finally free from the toxic cycle that had once consumed my life, free to forge my own path without the weight of Trent's manipulation dragging me down. In the new city, I found a cozy apartment nestled in a quiet, family-friendly neighborhood. It was a far cry from the suburban prison I had once called home, a place where I could finally breathe and begin to rebuild. My family rallied around me, offering their unwavering support as I settled into my new surroundings. My sister, ever the doting aunt, would come over to lend a hand with the baby, allowing me precious moments of respite. And as the months passed, I found myself slowly but surely regaining my footing. The dark clouds of doubt and despair that had once loomed overhead began to dissipate, replaced by the warm glow of hope and self-assurance. I even reconnected with an old friend from college, Sarah, who had recently moved to the area with her own family. Our shared experiences as single mothers forged an unbreakable bond, and we quickly became each other's greatest source of strength and solidarity. "You're a warrior, Lila," Sarah would often remind me during our coffee dates. "What you've been through would have broken most people, but you refused to let it define you." And she was right. Despite the darkness I had endured, I had emerged on the other side, stronger and more resilient than ever before. Trent's actions had been a desperate attempt to break my spirit, but in the end, they had only served to harden my resolve. As I watched my child grow and thrive, surrounded by a loving support system, I couldn't help but feel a sense of profound gratitude. This was the life I had fought for, the future I had sacrificed so much to secure. And in those quiet moments, when my little one would gaze up at me with eyes full of innocent wonder, I knew that every tear, every heartache, had been worth it. For in their unblemished gaze, I saw not just the promise of a better tomorrow, but the reminder that even in our darkest moments, love and resilience can ultimately prevail.
Success tastes like copper pennies and broken promises. That's what I used to tell myself during those endless nights at the office, grinding away at presentations while my marriage collected dust at home. I should have known better, but ambition has a way of blinding you to the cracks forming right under your feet. I was reviewing quarterly projections when Simon walked into my office, his presence filling the doorway like a storm front. "Athena, got a minute?" The way he said it, casual but charged, made my stomach tighten. I'd worked under Simon long enough to recognize when something big was coming. "Of course." I closed my laptop, giving him my full attention. That's what got me here in the first place. Always being ready. Always saying yes. The Carson branch needs new leadership. Their numbers are in the toilet, and the board wants someone who can turn things around. He leaned against my desk, arms crossed. "I recommended you." My heart stuttered. Carson was our problem child. Rural, resistant to change, and notorious for eating through section chiefs like candy. It was also 3 hours away from home. "It's a 6-month assignment," Simon continued. "Success there means executive track. First female exec at Quantum. That's got your name written all over it." The words hit me like a shot of adrenaline. I'd been chasing that ceiling for years, watching less qualified men climb past me. Now here it was, my chance to shatter it. "Ryan," I started, then stopped myself. My husband's face flashed in my mind, supportive smile, worried eyes. "Take the weekend. Think it over." Simon pushed off my desk. "But Athena, don't let anyone else's limitations become yours." That night, I drove home with my mind racing and my hands tight on the steering wheel. Ryan was in the kitchen when I walked in, chopping vegetables with the precise, measured movements he brought to everything. "You're home early," he said, not looking up. Simon offered me the Carson branch. The words tumbled out before I could cushion them. The knife stopped mid-chop. Carson? That's... He set the knife down carefully. That's not exactly commuting distance. 6 months. Executive track afterward. I moved closer, studying his profile. It's what I've been working toward. Right? He resumed chopping, harder now. Of course it is. Ryan. No, I get it. This is your shot. He scraped the vegetables into a bowl, still not meeting my eyes. We'll figure it out. We always do. But his voice had that hollow quality I'd started hearing more often lately, like he was reading from a script he didn't believe in anymore. I haven't said yes yet, I offered, even though we both knew I would. He finally looked at me then, and something in his expression made my chest ache. Yes, you have. You said yes the moment Simon walked into your office. Later that night, I lay awake listening to Ryan's measured breathing beside me. He was right. I had already decided. The question wasn't whether I would take the position, but what it would cost us. My phone buzzed with a text from Simon. Board meeting Monday. Need your answer by then. I typed back one word. Yes. In the dark, Ryan shifted slightly, and I wondered if he was really asleep, if he could feel the decision I'd just made vibrating through the mattress like an earthquake's first tremor. I didn't know then that I was setting in motion events that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my marriage, about Ryan, about myself. I didn't know that sometimes the path to revenge starts with a single word, typed in the dark while your husband pretends to sleep beside you. I just knew that come Monday, everything would change. And part of me was already wondering if I was ready for what that really meant. The cardboard boxes mock me from their neat stack in the corner of our bedroom. Each one represents another piece of my life I'll need to compartmentalize, label, and transport to Carson. Ryan hasn't helped pack a single one. You're really doing this. His voice startles me as I fold another sweater. He's leaning against the door frame, arms crossed, watching me with that new distance in his eyes. We talked about this. I keep folding, trying to ignore how my hands shake slightly. The movers come Thursday. Right, Thursday. He pushes off the doorframe, walks to the window. Claire invited us for dinner tonight. Sort of a going away thing. The pause before going away carries weight I'm not ready to examine. That's nice of her. Unless you're too busy packing. There it is. That edge in his voice that's become sharper lately. I set down the sweater. No, dinner would be good. We should go. Claire's house smells like rosemary and unspoken words when we arrive. She hugs me tight, too tight, and whispers, I made your favorite. But her smile doesn't reach her eyes. Ryan gravitates to the kitchen, where he and Claire fall into their familiar rhythm of cooking together. I watch from the doorway as they move around each other, with the easy grace of siblings who grew up sharing spaces. They don't need words to communicate, a trait that used to charm me but now feels excluding. He'll be fine, you know, Claire says later, when Ryan stepped out to take a work call. I'll keep an eye on him. I'm not abandoning him. The words come out sharper than intended. It's 6 months. Claire takes a slow sip of wine. 6 months is a long time to be alone. He's not alone. He has you, his friends, his work. That's not what I meant. She sets down her glass with deliberate care. Marriage isn't just about existing in the same space. It's about choosing each other, every day. I am choosing him, I snap. I'm choosing our future. Are you? Her voice is gentle, which somehow makes it worse. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're choosing yourself. Ryan returns before I can respond, but Claire's words burrow under my skin like splinters. Through dinner, I watch him laugh at his sister's jokes, animated in a way he hasn't been with me in weeks. When did we start speaking different languages? Later that night, lying in bed, Ryan rolls toward me. "I've been thinking," he says to the darkness. "Maybe I could look for work in Carson. Not right away, but eventually." My heart clenches. It's the first time he's suggested following me, but something in his tone sounds more like surrender than support. "Your whole client base is here," I remind him. "Your sister, your friends." "Yeah." He rolls away again. "Just a thought." The silence stretches between us like a chasm. I want to reach across it, but I'm afraid of what I might find. Or worse, what I might not find. My phone buzzes. It's Simon. "Board approved the transfer package. You're all set for Monday." I stare at the message until the screen dims, then goes dark. In the reflection, I catch a glimpse of Ryan's back, rigid with consciousness. He's not sleeping either. "Ryan?" I whisper. Are we okay?" The pause before his answer feels endless. "Of course we are." But his voice has that same hollow quality from before, like he's reading from a script he doesn't believe in anymore. I lie there, listening to him pretend to sleep, and wonder if this is how cracks start. Not with dramatic breaks, but with small silences that grow deeper day by day. Claire's words echo in my head. 6 months is a long time to be alone. But I'm starting to think maybe we're already alone, lying here together in the dark, each of us guarding secrets we're not ready to share. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a small voice whispers that maybe this distance isn't just about Carson anymore. Maybe it never was. Carson feels like exile. The office is a converted warehouse with flickering fluorescent lights and the constant hum of ancient heating ducts. My team, if you can call them that, greet my morning presentations with crossed arms and barely concealed eye rolls. These implementation timelines are unrealistic, Dave, my senior developer, announces during our third meeting. Maybe things worked differently back at headquarters, but here in the real world. The real world is exactly where we're losing market share, I cut in, my voice sharp enough to slice through his condescension. Unless you'd prefer to explain our numbers to corporate? The silence that follows tastes like victory, but it's hollow. Later, I catch snippets of conversation in the break room. Corporate princess and temporary assignment, spoken like curses. My phone buzzes. Ryan's weekly check-in call. I've started dreading these conversations, each one feeling more like a performance than a connection. "Hey." His voice sounds distant, distracted. "Bad time?" "No, just finished a meeting." I close my office door, shutting out the hostile glances. "How are you?" "Good. Busy. Claire's been helping me reorganize the house. Says it's good therapy or something." My stomach tightens. "Reorganize?" "Yeah, you know, making space, moving things around." A pause. "It feels different here without all your stuff." The way he says it, casual, almost relieved, makes something crack inside me. "Ryan, Sorry, got another call coming in. Client emergency. Talk next week?" He hangs up before I can respond. I stare at my phone, wondering when exactly we became strangers who share a last name. That evening, I work late, reviewing project timelines until my eyes burn. My mother's number flashes on my screen. I consider ignoring it, but guilt wins out. "Sweetheart," she starts, and I can already hear the judgment creeping in. "Claire mentioned she had dinner with Ryan last night. Again." "They're siblings, Mom." "They're awfully close these days. A wife should be concerned when... A wife should trust her husband." I snap, even as doubt gnaws at my certainty. "Trust needs nurturing, Athena. It needs presence." After we hang up, I pull up our home security app, something I've been doing more frequently lately. The living room camera shows Claire and Ryan on the couch, takeout containers spread between them. They're laughing at something I can't hear, and the intimacy of the scene makes my chest ache. My phone pings with an email from Simon. "Board meeting tomorrow. Numbers aren't improving fast enough. Need solutions." I close the security app, but not before I see Claire rest her hand on Ryan's arm, her expression full of something that looks too much like pity. The next morning, I arrive early to find my team huddled around Dave's desk, their conversation stopping abruptly when they spot me. On my desk is a printed email, an internal memo I wasn't copied on, discussing contingency plans for leadership transitions at the Carson branch. "Looking for something?" Dave asks from my doorway, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Just admiring your dedication to printing confidential emails," I reply, holding up the paper. "Interesting reading material." He shrugs, unrepentant. "Thought you should know where things stand, being temporary and all." I stand slowly, squaring my shoulders. "Let me be clear, Dave. I didn't come here to make friends or validate your ego. I came here to fix this branch, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. With or without your cooperation." His face darkens, but before he can respond, my phone buzzes. It's a text from Claire. "We need to talk about Ryan." My hand tightens on the phone as Dave watches, waiting for me to crack. I delete the message without responding. "Meeting in 10 minutes, I tell him, my voice steady despite the chaos churning inside. "Bring those realistic timelines you're so fond of discussing." As he leaves, I catch my reflection in the window. Poised, professional, perfect. But underneath, something is shifting, hardening. I'm tired of being the one who bends, who compromises, who pretends not to see the cracks forming in every aspect of my life. Maybe it's time to stop playing nice. Maybe it's time to show them all exactly what this corporate princess can do when pushed too far. I'm reviewing security footage again when I notice it. Ryan started going to the community center 3 times a week, always at the same time, always dressed more carefully than usual. The camera catches him checking his reflection in the hallway mirror before leaving, a gesture so unfamiliar it makes my stomach clench. Claire's message still sits unanswered in my phone. Whatever she needs to tell me about Ryan, I'm not sure I want to hear it. My office phone rings. It's Simon. "The board wants an update presentation next week, in person." "I'll be there." "Make it good, Athena. There's talk about restructuring the Carson branch completely." I hang up and pull up the home security app again, but this time something's different. The cameras are offline. All of them. I call Ryan. It goes to voicemail. I text, "Security system's down. Can you check it?" His response comes hours later. "Sorry, must have unplugged something while cleaning." Cleaning, right. Ryan, who once left dishes in the sink for 3 days, is suddenly Marie Kondo. That night, I drive the 3 hours home without warning him. The house is dark when I arrive, but Ryan's car is in the driveway. I use my key, moving quietly through our home that doesn't quite feel like mine anymore. There's music coming from the basement, our home gym that Ryan rarely used before. I pause at the top of the stairs, hearing laughter. A woman's voice, light and unfamiliar, drifts up. "Your form is perfect," she says. "You're a natural." "I have a good teacher," Ryan responds, his voice warm in a way I haven't heard in months. I should go down, should confront whatever's happening in my basement. Instead, I retreat silently, drive to a hotel, and spend the night staring at the ceiling, calculating exactly how many lies it takes to destroy a marriage. The next morning, I do what any self-respecting woman would do. I investigate. The community center's website lists their classes. Tuesday and Thursday evenings, Mindful Movement Yoga with Lila Thompson. I scroll through Lila's social media. She's younger than me, with the kind of effortless beauty that makes women like me buy expensive creams and hate ourselves anyway. Her latest post shows her demonstrating a complicated pose, caption reading, "Finding balance in unexpected places." Blessed. The comments section is full of praise, including one from a profile I recognize. Ryan's. "Thanks for showing me the way." My phone buzzes. Claire again. "Please call me. It's important." I block her number. At work, I channel everything into the presentation. Dave watches me with growing unease as I dismantle his excuses, restructure teams, and push through changes with the kind of ruthless efficiency that comes from having nothing left to lose. "You're different lately," he comments after a particularly brutal meeting. "Maybe I'm just done pretending." That evening, I call Ryan. He answers on the fourth ring, slightly out of breath. "Hey, everything okay?" "Just checking in. How's the cleaning going?" "Good. Yeah, really good. Actually, I'm kind of in the middle of something. Yoga, maybe?" The silence stretches for 3 heartbeats. "What?" "Nothing. Just noticed you've been spending a lot of time at the community center, finding balance in unexpected places." Athena. "The security cameras are still down, by the way. Funny how that happened right around the time you started getting so flexible. It's not what you think." But his voice has that guilty edge I've learned to recognize. "Isn't it? Tell me, Ryan, does Lila know you're married, or is that something else you're being flexible about?" He starts to respond, but I hang up. My hands are steady as I pull up my email and book a flight home for next week. Then I open my contact list and scroll to Henry Thompson, prominent local businessman, and more importantly, Lila's father. Sometimes revenge doesn't need to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes it just needs to be precise. I send a short email. "Mr. Thompson, I believe we need to discuss a matter concerning your daughter and my husband. Would you be available for coffee next week?" The response comes within minutes. Name the time and place. The cafe where I meet Henry Thompson smells like expensive coffee and old money. He's already seated when I arrive, his tailored suit and carefully neutral expression speaking volumes about power and privilege. "Mrs. Mitchell." He stands, offering his hand. "I must admit, your email intrigued me." "It's still Carter professionally," I correct him, accepting both the handshake and the subtle power play. "I kept my name." "Of course." His smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Though I understand you're rarely home these days to discuss such matters with your husband." The barb lands, but I don't flinch. Instead, I pull out my phone and slide it across the table, security footage playing silently. Ryan and Lila entering our house. The timestamps tell their own story. Henry's face hardens as he watches. "I see." "Do you?" "Because I'm wondering if your daughter sees the whole picture." He sits back, studying me. "What exactly are you hoping to achieve here, Mrs. Carter?" "Clarity." I meet his gaze steadily. "Your daughter is involved with a married man, my husband. I thought you should know before it affects both our families' reputations." "How considerate." His voice drips sarcasm. "And the fact that my company recently signed a major contract with Ryan's firm has nothing to do with your concern?" My phone buzzes. Claire again, this time from a different number. I silence it without looking away from Henry. "I'm simply providing information. What you do with it is your choice." Later that evening, my mother calls. "Claire's been trying to reach you," she says without preamble. "She says it's important." "I'm sure it is." I'm reviewing the board presentation, making notes with mechanical precision. "Did she tell you what Ryan's been up to while I'm away?" "Athena." Her voice softens with pity. "Sometimes when we push people away, don't." The word comes out sharp enough to cut. "Don't you dare make this my fault." I'm not, but revenge won't fix what's broken. I laugh, the sound hollow even to my own ears. "Who says I want to fix it?" After hanging up, I check my email. Henry's already acted. There's a company-wide announcement about a restructuring of vendor relationships. Ryan's firm is notably absent from the new approved list. My phone lights up with Ryan's call. I let it ring. Instead, I pull up the security app again. The cameras are back online. Ryan must think I've forgotten about them. I watch as he paces our living room, phone to his ear. Even without sound, I can read the tension in his movements. Lila appears in frame, reaching for him. He jerks away, gesturing angrily. She covers her face with her hands. They argue silently on my screen, like actors in a play I'm directing from afar. A new email pops up, from Simon. Board presentation moved up. Tomorrow morning. Be ready. I close the security app, but not before I see Claire enter the frame, placing herself between Ryan and Lila. Always the mediator, my sister-in-law. Always trying to fix what's already shattered. My phone buzzes again. A text from an unknown number. You don't understand. It's not what you think. Please let me explain. Leela. I save the number. It might be useful later. The presentation documents blur before my eyes as another text arrives, this time from Claire. You're making a terrible mistake. There's something you need to know about Lila. I block this number too, but her words echo in my head. What don't I understand? What mistake am I making? For a moment, doubt creeps in. Then I remember Ryan's laughter in our basement, Lila's voice floating up the stairs, the casual intimacy of their betrayal. I open my laptop and begin typing an email to Henry, attaching more security footage. Each click of the keyboard feels like another nail in the coffin of my marriage, but I keep typing anyway. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying everything at once. Sometimes it's about watching it all unravel, thread by careful thread, until there's nothing left but the truth. And tomorrow, after the board presentation, I'll finally go home to face that truth in person. The board presentation goes perfectly. Too perfectly. Simon's approving nod, the impressed murmurs from the executives. It all feels hollow, like watching a play where I know the ending but keep pretending anyway. I drive home without calling ahead. The sun is setting when I pull into our driveway, casting long shadows across the familiar landscape of my former life. Ryan's car is there, along with another I don't recognize. Sleek, expensive, clearly new. The front door is unlocked. Music drifts from the kitchen, along with the smell of cooking and the sound of laughter. I move silently through my own house, a ghost in comfortable shoes. They don't notice me at first. Ryan's at the stove, Lila perched on our counter, my counter, wearing one of his old t-shirts. She's showing him something on her phone, both of them smiling at whatever's on the screen. Cozy. My voice cuts through their bubble like a blade. They jump apart. Ryan's face drains of color. Athena? Don't stop on my account. I lean against the doorframe, surprising myself with how steady I feel. You seem right at home. Lila slides off the counter, her eyes wide. I should go. Why? You're already wearing his clothes. Might as well stay for dinner. This isn't... Ryan steps forward, hands raised like he's approaching a wild animal. Let me explain. Explain what? How you've been fucking your yoga instructor in our house? Or how you got Henry Thompson to pull his contracts? Lila's head snaps up. You talked to my father. Someone had to tell him the truth. I smile, all teeth. Since neither of you seemed interested in that particular concept. You don't understand, Lila starts, but Ryan cuts her off. Don't, please. He turns to me, his face a mask of guilt and something else. Relief? I was going to tell you. When? After the divorce, or after you moved her into our bedroom? There was never going to be a divorce. It's Lila who speaks, her voice stronger now. That wasn't the plan. The word plan hits me like a physical blow. I look between them, seeing something I missed before, the way they're standing, not like guilty lovers but like conspirators. What plan? The front door opens. Claire walks in, freezing when she sees us. Oh God! Athena, wait! But I'm already moving, pushing past her to the study. The drawer where we keep our important papers is slightly ajar. I yank it open, rifling through documents until I find what I'm looking for. Our investment portfolio. Empty. I can explain. Ryan says from the doorway. Everything was falling apart at work. After Henry pulled the contracts. So you emptied our accounts? My voice sounds distant, like it belongs to someone else. And her? Was she part of your financial recovery plan? She's Henry's daughter, he says, as if that explains everything. We thought, if he saw us together, if he believed we were serious. The laugh that escapes me doesn't sound human. You used me leaving as cover. All those yoga classes, all those late nights, you were orchestrating your own scandal to manipulate her father. I tried to tell you, Claire interjects, about the company's troubles, about Ryan's plan. Shut up. I turn to Lila, who at least has the decency to look ashamed. Did Daddy's money make it worth it? Playing the other woman to save Ryan's career? It wasn't like that, she whispers. Not at first. I walk to the window, staring at the garden I used to tend before ambition called me away. Everything looks different now. The flowers I planted, the paths we laid together, even the sky above our house. Get out. My voice is ice. All of you. Athena, please. Ryan starts. I said get out! I whirl around, grabbing the nearest object, a crystal vase, our wedding gift, and hurling it against the wall. It shatters spectacularly, the sound like everything breaking at once. They leave. I stand in the wreckage of my marriage, my trust, my carefully constructed revenge, and realize I never saw the real betrayal coming. I was so focused on the affair that I missed the conspiracy. My phone buzzes. Simon congratulating me on the presentation, on my promotion, on my future. I delete it without responding. Some victories taste like ash. I spend 3 days gathering evidence, bank statements, email trails, security footage. Each piece fits together like a puzzle I never wanted to solve. Then I send one text. Dinner, tomorrow, your place. Ryan agrees too quickly. When I arrive, the table is set for 4. Claire and Lila are already there, looking like guilty conspirators at a Last Supper. Ryan's wearing the blue shirt I bought him last Christmas, his hands fidgeting with a wine glass. Family dinner? I set my laptop bag on the counter. How domestic. We need to talk, Ryan starts. About everything. Yes, let's talk. I open my laptop, turning it to face them. Let's talk about the offshore account you opened 3 months ago. Or the emails between you and Henry Thompson dating back to before I left for Carson. Lila's face pales. What emails? The ones where your father agreed to pull his contracts strategically. Create a crisis that would force the company to accept new terms. I scroll through documents. Quite the performance, really. The devoted daughter falling for the desperate businessman. Did you practice your yoga poses between plotting sessions? It wasn't supposed to go this far, Claire interjects. Ryan just needed leverage. And you? I turn to her. Was being his lookout part of the original plan? Or did that come later? I was protecting him. From what? His wife? Or his conscience? Ryan steps forward. The company was dying. Henry Thompson had us in a chokehold. I had to do something. So you orchestrated an affair with his daughter? The laugh that escapes me sounds foreign. Used our marriage as collateral? It started as a plan, Lila says quietly. But things changed. Save it. I pull out my phone, pressing play on a recording. Henry Thompson's voice fills the room. The merger goes through next week. Once Ryan's company is absorbed, the board will need new leadership. Ryan lunges for the phone. I snatch it back, letting him see the screen, the message already forwarded to his entire board of directors. You didn't, he whispers. Didn't what? Expose your manipulation? Your fraud? I turn to Lila. The fact that you helped destroy your father's reputation for a man who was using you? That's not... She stops, looking at Ryan, Something shifts in her expression. Is it? The silence that follows is answer enough. I saved everything. I continue, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. Every message, every transaction, every carefully orchestrated coincidence. The board has it all now. So does the SEC. You've destroyed everything, Ryan says, but there's more fear than anger in his voice. No, you did that. I just made sure everyone could see the ruins. Claire stands suddenly. There are things you don't know, Athena, about why we had to... Had to? I cut her off. Had to empty our accounts? Had to use me as cover for your brother's schemes? Had to watch him manipulate a woman's feelings for financial gain? I loved her, Ryan protests, but even Lila flinches at the past tense. You loved what she represented. Access, opportunity, a way out of the mess you created. I close my laptop. But you forgot something crucial. What's that? His voice is barely a whisper. I learned manipulation from the best. I head for the door, then pause. Oh, and Ryan? Check your email. The divorce papers are there, along with a detailed account of your financial misconduct. I'd sign quickly if I were you. Things tend to get complicated once federal investigations begin. You wouldn't, Claire starts, but stops when she sees my expression. I already did. I look at each of them, my husband, his sister, his accomplice. The difference between your revenge and mine? I didn't need to pretend it was love. I leave them there, surrounded by the wreckage of their carefully constructed plans. My phone buzzes with messages. From the board, from Henry Thompson, from my lawyer. I ignore them all. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying everything. Sometimes it's about revealing the truth and letting it do the destroying for you. The headlines splash across my tablet screen during my morning coffee. Tech merger scandal rocks business community. Ryan's company's stock has plummeted. The SEC investigation is ongoing. Henry Thompson has stepped down as CEO. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Can we meet? Lila. I consider ignoring it, but curiosity wins. We meet at a small cafe across town, far from the yoga studio, far from my old life. She looks different, sharper somehow, like betrayal has carved away her softness. I didn't know, she says without preamble. About any of it. The merger, the manipulation, how he used both of us. Would it have mattered if you did? She stirs her untouched coffee. I thought I was helping him heal from losing you. Ironic, right? He never lost me. He gambled me. And now he's lost everything. She meets my eyes. Was it worth it? The revenge? I consider the question as Simon's latest email burns in my inbox. My promotion to executive vice president, the first woman to hold the position. Ask me when the SEC finishes their investigation. My father wants to make a deal, to save what's left of both companies. That's not my concern anymore. No, she agrees, but you might be interested in what I found in Ryan's emails. Things even you missed. She slides a USB drive across the table. I don't take it. Why are you really here, Lila? Because you and I? We're more alike than different. We both believed in something that wasn't real. She stands, leaving the drive. The difference is, you did something about it. At home, curiosity again proves stronger than caution. The drive contains emails dating back years, Ryan's slow descent into financial manipulation, Claire's growing involvement, plans within plans. But it's the most recent ones that stop me cold. Messages between Ryan and Claire, discussing contingency plans that would have left me taking the fall if their scheme had succeeded. My phone rings. It's my mother. I saw the news, she says. Are you okay? I'm fine. And surprisingly, I am. Claire came to see me. She wanted me to convince you to drop the charges. Of course she did. I told her my daughter doesn't need convincing of anything. A pause. I'm proud of you, Athena. The words hit harder than expected. For destroying my marriage? For refusing to be destroyed by it. After we hang up, I pour a glass of wine and open my laptop. There's an email from Ryan's lawyer, another from the SEC investigators, and one from Simon about my upcoming board presentation. But it's Lila's words that echo. We're more alike than different. I start typing an email to Henry Thompson. Not about deals or mergers or revenge, but about truth. His daughters, mine, all of it. Some things deserve to be dragged into the light, even if the truth burns everyone involved. My doorbell rings. It's Claire, looking haunted. You haven't seen the whole picture, she starts. Actually, I hold up the USB drive. I think I finally have. She pales. Athena. Save it for the investigators. I close the door, but not before adding, and Claire? Tell Ryan the next time he plans to frame his wife for corporate fraud, he should probably use a better password than our wedding date. Later, I sit in my garden, the one I'd neglected for ambition, the one Ryan used for his secret meetings, and watch the sunset. My phone lights up with a message from Lila. Thank you for copying my father on that email. Some truths need witnesses. I don't respond, but I save her number. Sometimes the strongest alliances rise from shared wreckage. The garden needs work, weeds to pull, flowers to replant, new seeds to sow. But this time, I'll grow something different, something stronger, something that doesn't need anyone else's validation to bloom. I open my laptop and begin typing my statement for the board. The first line reads, "Success isn't about climbing higher, it's about standing firmer." Behind me, the sun sets on my old life, and I don't look back to watch it fade.